Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agent success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Corey Buchan, happy Monday, everybody. Let's go, he says. And it is Monday. It is a great Monday. And I know that literally nobody wants to be at work right now because it's the most dull time of year in certain aspects of things. I also think that this is when the biggest separators actually happen in yourself, right? Like, I know as we're creeping up on the holidays and everything, you want to find every reason to not do your work right now for whatever that is. And I get it, right? It's very, very challenging to develop business right now. It's very, very challenging to do anything right now, but it's kind of the way it's always going to be no matter what. So you really have to go out and build up a system around that to follow. So we're going to get into that here today. The topic of today's show, it's a solo show today. So I'm going to get pretty granular actually on building a sales system to follow out there in, going into 2025. But before we go any further on that, you guys, I do have guests coming on this week. And then also we release a newsletter every single Wednesday. If you go to thefreightcoach.com, you can register for that. I put a poll out there and the majority of people don't want to be auto-registered for it. So I'm not going to auto-register anybody. I'm going to continue to do what I do with all of my content, and that is build that shit up organically. So if you want to get a phenomenal newsletter on the transportation industry that is very niche specific, go to thefreightcoach.com. It will prompt you to auto-register for it. Or if for some reason you want me or someone on my team to do it for you, just DM me on LinkedIn, your email address. I'll add you to it. We'll save you the trouble. We try and make this as easy as possible for everybody that's going on out there. Nick Sanders, let's go. Let's build some winning strategies. Amen to that, man. Let me see here, you guys. Hold on 2 seconds. Got to reply to an email here for a customer. See, this is the point of paying attention to everything that your customers say. Anyways, back into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Sometimes duty calls and opportunities aren't as plentiful as a lot of people might want to make it sound. So we're going to talk about building a sales system here for you guys to follow. This is something that I struggled with in business. This is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And, I want to start with paralysis analysis here. All right. And I want to start on like legitimately ripping the Band-Aid off, like committing to doing that going out there into next year. Right. Because I have heard from so many individuals out there that they're waiting to sell until the market shifts. All right. And that's why I'm doing this episode right now with literally 2 weeks left in the year, right? Because, the week of the 20, Christmas and New Year's and everything, we all know what that's going to be like. But, leading up to that, you guys, like, get a head start on this stuff. Okay. I think that paralysis analysis kills way more people in business, in sales than anything, because we're our own worst critic. We're our own worst enemy. Here's a news flash. Nobody fucking cares about you. All right. This is going to come off as pretty harsh to some people, but that's something that I had to get over as I started building up my companies, right? On the media side of things, as well as the freight brokerage. Nobody fucking gives a shit about me, but nobody also remembers me at the same time, right? So why not go for it? I think that we spend so much time planning, so much time deciding, oh, I should say this, I should say that. No, you just need to rip the fucking Band-Aid off and go for it. And you formulate that plan. You execute upon that as you go, okay? Because the reality is you're going to make a ton of calls and there's going to be little to no response from it at all. And then you're going to get somebody on the phone. You're going to think you had a really good conversation with them. You might talk to them for 15 to 20 minutes. And then you follow back up with them in a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. And they don't even fucking remember you exist, right? So all of that anxiety of getting hung up on and getting told no, that should help you throw that shit right out the window. Okay. And I'm saying that from experience. Okay. Because I'm a real human being when I have real emotions. I have all of that shit. I don't put on this facade on this show or online about how I'm perfect and I have it all figured out. I don't. I am figuring it out as I go. And the more and more action I've taken, the less and less that cold call anxiety starts to affect me. Okay. And I'm getting better at that. There are still days where I start making my calls and I sound like absolute shit for the first couple of calls. Okay. But it takes me a little bit of time. Then I get into that routine and then I start executing upon it. And I start paying less and less attention to the no's. We're not adding anybody. Call us back. Remove us from your list. I start paying less and less attention to that. And I start paying more and more attention to the little cues of yes out there. Okay. And I'm going to start going into this. All right. So first and foremost, you guys, two very important things. Remove paralysis analysis from your vocabulary. All right. You can prepare. Preparation's great, but eventually you got to fucking try it. Okay. Because otherwise you're going to sit there and spin your wheels. You're going to have another meeting, another planning session. And guess what? Planning sessions don't actually equate to revenue if you're not doing anything from those planning sessions. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of value in meetings and shit like that, but people put so much time into meetings and then they don't actually fucking execute upon that. And then you're having a meeting about a meeting, right? It's just an endless loop of nothingness that's out there. Okay. So it's like, if you're going to plan, but then you just rip the Band-Aid off and go for it, because ultimately, you guys, they do not remember you. All right. We remember us fucking way more than anybody will ever remember anything you do or say out there, because they have their own shit. They are way more concerned about themselves than they are about you. And if that doesn't help you really push through a little bit of that anxiety, I don't know what will. Okay. Because there's a lot of stuff you're going to go out and do, and it affects you way more than it will affect anybody else, because it's your life, rightfully so, right? Like, this is my livelihood out here. Okay. And I understand that comes with it, but it's like, you guys, we're not as important as we think. Not saying that people aren't important. So like, don't take me as, trying to discredit shit, but like, we're not as important as we think. We're the most important person in our lives, obviously, but when you're going out there, they don't remember you. Okay. So like, all of this stuff about how are people going to think of me? What are like the perception, all of this, throw that shit out the window. They got their own shit going on in their business and their lives. They're not going to remember you. Okay. So once you know that, once you can accept that, you're going to really be able to go out there and hit the ground running here, you guys. Okay. So we're going to go out and we're going to start from very much the first step of building out a system here. Identify your target prospect. All right. What is it that you want to do? And this is another problem with paralysis analysis that comes in and especially as a freight broker, okay? You're like, oh, there's opportunities everywhere. We got to capitalize on everything. You don't, all right? You don't at all. you need to hyper focus in on a core competency. Okay. Maybe that's full truckload. All right. Maybe you want to go after drive-in, reefer, whatever that is. Choose a core competency, identify your target prospect, and then become a subject matter expert in that. Okay. As you're going for those repeatable, scalable processes, you guys, you are so much more effective when you are going after one thing. And again, I want to be clear, this is to really get your business off the ground. But I know companies, some friends of mine, you guys that are founders of some companies that do over $100 million a year. All right. And guess what they do? One thing. And if you're sitting there saying, that's just not the case for you, you need to do everything, I want you to look at your company's revenue or look at your pay stub. Are you doing $100 million a year? And if you're not, there's no reason to go out there and chase shit, okay? Because that is literally what everybody does. They chase freight markets, they chase the hot commodities of this month or whatever it is, and then they're just thrown out there into nothing land with every other provider who's added to a distribution list, who's racing to the bottom on pricing, trying to beat somebody by $20 on that. It might work out in the short term, all right? But like ultimately, if you want to build something, you got to become undeniably better than anybody else that's out there. So do your due diligence on this. Who do you want to go after? All right. My bread and butter, open deck, heavy haul. All right. That is my bread and butter. I also sprinkle in some drayage in there because ultimately I have one of our largest shippers that we work with that needed some help with some drayage. We figured it out. We got a system in place now and we run with that, but I didn't sell them on that. So I want to be clear, when I'm out there developing customers, I'm going after full truckload, primarily within flatbed, open deck, stuff like that. But if an existing customer comes to me with an opportunity, I will capitalize on that. Okay. So there is a big difference. That is an after the customer has been acquired growth strategy that we can talk on another episode here. Because, as we're getting closer to the holidays, I might have to sprinkle in some solo episodes. So we'll sprinkle that one in. But like, again, this is building a sales system to follow in 2025. Okay. So we're starting out there, get in with one thing and then just become undeniably better at that, because that confidence factor that ultimately stops you from picking up the phone and dialing comes from indecision. It comes from not knowing what to say, as opposed to, hey, I have 500 leads here for flatbeds. They all ship flatbeds, or it's my job to find out, do they primarily utilize flatbeds or do they maybe ship on dry vans, for example, okay? Because I'm out there qualifying a lot of my leads. So after I've identified my target prospect, which is in the open deck space, I'm doing my research on them. I'm calling them and I'm qualifying them, all right? So that's step number 2. I've identified my target prospect. Number 2, I'm qualifying them, all right? Because I've done my research on a lot of the shippers and prospects that I go after. And guess what? Sometimes their website shows one thing. I make the wrong assumption, and it turns out they don't actually need flatbeds for their stuff. They just produce a small component and that goes on an excavator, for example, and all of their website shows fucking excavator. So I've made that mistake, but that's why you go in there and qualify them by calling them. All right. And a really good book for you guys to read and kind of developing out a system here. I know this guy gets a lot of shit out there in the world because he's not the most, or wasn't the most ethical person at one point in his life, but it is, where was that book? It is The Way of the Wolf, Jordan Belfort. He talks about the straight line selling system, the straight line sales system that he developed out there. This is very applicable inside of transportation, okay? Because as you're going out there and calling people, what you're going to realize is nobody really wants to talk to you, all right? Nobody is going to be interested in adding you to anything the right away when you're calling them. So how do I get a yes out of them, okay? That is one thing I try and focus on a lot in the beginning stages of building a lot of relationships, right? Because just because you called somebody and left a voicemail, you didn't do shit with that one, right? Like I'm talking actually getting somebody on the phone and talking to them. So it's like in the event that you get somebody on the phone, whether it's the decision maker or the gatekeeper, I try and find a little bit of information out there. All right. That's why I'm a specialist in open deck and heavy haul. And I will ask them explicitly, like, hey, are you guys always utilizing flatbeds for this? Or do you guys crate your machines and ship them out on dry vans? I'll ask something like that. And they'll be like, oh, we'll use flatbeds. And then if I'm getting feeling really good about it, I'm going to ask them, hey, are you guys working with brokers as well at this time? Because not everybody does. And again, I don't have the time to chase somebody that will literally only work with trucking companies direct, or chase somebody that has been working with the same providers for 15 years and they're just not going to make any changes. Because like as a founder, I kind of like, as much as I hate not having the opportunity, I fucking love hearing that. Okay. Because like, that's what I'm out here to search for. I'm here to search for those customers that I can build an actual relationship with long-term. So if you're out there qualifying all of these leads, in those beginning stages, in those initial stages, you guys, we got to find the yeses to keep us going, to know, is this prospect worth following up with? Because your time is the resource that we really need to focus on. We need to keep your time free as you're developing a book of business that's out, that when you're going on out there, you guys, you need a process to follow. This is what has been effective for me. We're not onboarding customers every fucking day, every week, or anything like that, you guys, but we're very successful in cold calling because like I'm very targeted in why I'm calling them. And then I'm also trying to get a little yes to follow up on with them, so I know who to follow up with. You know, if I call somebody and they're like, yeah, we work with brokers, but like maybe they just ship their shit out via LTL and I follow up with them, guess what? That's a wasted follow-up call, because that's just not my target market. That's not who I'm trying to go after. So I think like this is like a really good basis for a lot of us to follow. All right. So step one, and I'm going to repeat this throughout this, you guys, is, you know, get rid of the bullshit of you're so special and everything, and everybody's going to remember you, because that's just not the case. Identifying your target prospect. All right. Open deck, heavy haul, drive, reefer, full truckload, whatever that is. And then research that prospect. And then you need to call them and qualify them. All right. Unless you have a qualifications department who goes out there and does all of that for you. I don't. So I am the one who's going out there and qualifying. And I just like making sure. And guess what, you guys? People are way more friendly when you call them, if you actually have a reason for calling them, as opposed to, hey, just give me all your business. I'm the best at everything. I've had some really good conversations with people here, and I'm just not naive to think that everybody's going to set me up just because I called them, just because I have a pulse. Okay. I think now from here, what we need to do is set a number of calls and emails that you can follow every single day. All right. This number of, I need my people making 100 calls a day and everything else, is ridiculous in my opinion. I think that's I'm not going to ever say it's too much work, but I question the validity of when you like, are you just tracking people for outbound dials, or are you wanting to reward your individuals based on quality conversations and meaningful conversations? Because like, I'd rather have a rep that makes 35 or 45 or 50 calls in a day that actually gets people on the phone and actually uncovers a little bit of information about them, than somebody who just rushed people off the phone, prematurely hung up, whatever that was, because like, I got to get 100 calls in. And if I don't get 100 calls, I have a sales manager who hides in his office all day, who's going to come out here and yell, who's never made a cold call in his fucking life, to show me how it's done. Sorry, that's just maybe from past experience. But set a number and then look to improve upon that number. Okay. So I personally make 35 cold calls in a day, every single day, no matter what, whether we're moving 20 loads in a day, whether we're slow, because we're slow right now. I set that number and I do that every day, because I know long-term that is way more effective than having one day that I make 100 calls and then I don't make any for a couple of days because, oh, I did this one thing 3 days ago. Okay. So you set that number and you follow that every single day. And like I've described on the show before, where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this. And if you've never made cold calls before, or if you're just out here like looking, how do I get a little bit more out of my day, start tracking the time it takes for you to go out there and actually make your dials. How can you shave off a couple of seconds in between calls to improve that output, right? So that's why it's like, if you have no freight on the board at all, you got nothing, you have no active customers, you're not quoting anything, you're just building it up from scratch, you have more time than you think. Okay. So as you're going out there, try and find those little those kind of seconds or minutes that you can shave off to get a little bit more calls out there. Right. So when you get to that point, say you're doing 35 calls every single day and you're feeling like you're in a routine. Now it's time to apply the pressure a little bit more and add 5 more calls onto there. Okay. And then you do that for a couple of weeks or whatever that looks like for you. You get that comfort down, you get that routine down, then add a little bit more onto that. And the most important thing is, though, is a lot of what you're looking for, you guys, is over a 30, 60, or a 90-day period. How much did your output increase over that time? Because you've built that discipline, keyword, you've built that discipline to hold yourself accountable to doing the work every single day, no matter what, because you're going to hit those points where you're going to onboard somebody. You're going to start moving some freight. You're going to feel very fucking overwhelmed in those moments. And then you're going to throw some of your outreach to the side. And that is so detrimental long-term, as opposed to you building up that discipline, that routine to follow every single day. Okay. So insert that number in there however you want. 35 calls, 55 calls, 70. I don't care, but choose something and do it every single day, no matter what. Set a timer on your phone, block off time on your calendar. Hey, the next hour, I'm just dialing. All right. Like, I can get about 20 calls in an hour when I'm like really in the routine and I'm not getting pulled in any other directions. Okay. So take that for what it's worth. But again, you just got to start. It's going to suck right away, but eventually you get into that routine and you really start building off of that. So next thing, I also want you guys to start doing this, because this is something that I did. I stopped going on social media throughout the workday. And by social media, I'm talking like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, any of that stuff that is a non-revenue producing activity. All right. Yes, I am still on LinkedIn because LinkedIn's a revenue producing activity for me. But I have a rule. If I catch myself going on there and I'm scrolling my feed, I will only be on there until I see something negative or somebody complaining. In today's day and age, it gets you about fucking 8 seconds before you'll see that. But I set a timer on my phone, okay? And I left LinkedIn off of that because as I'm building up my prospect list and as I'm qualifying a lot of those leads, I like to jump on the company's LinkedIn page. I like to see, is there a specific individual listed on there or anything like that? But again, if I catch myself in that moment where I'm doom scrolling, it's only until I see a negative post and then I shut it down, or I set a timer on my phone for 5 minutes max. And then as soon as that alarm's off, I'm off of the website. I'm off of social media, because that is the biggest time suck that's out there for so many people. The amount of times I see individuals posting in a day is kind of like, what the fuck are you actually doing? Okay. And I'm not the busiest person in the world, but I try and limit my distractions as I'm going in through there. All right. So we got that, you guys, as we're going through. First things first, I'm going to recap here. First things first, get rid of that anxiety that somebody actually is so fucking thrown off by you calling that it's going to completely rock their fucking world. It's not. They don't remember you. None of us are that important. I'm not that important. They don't remember anything about me calling them in the moment. They are more concerned about their day, what they have going wrong, and everything else. So knowing that everybody has a life out there and it doesn't revolve around you kind of helps, and it makes it a lot easier for you to go out there and start calling people. Identify your target prospects. All right. That's step number 2. Identify your target prospects. Full truckload, flatbed only, LTL, air freight, whatever that is. Identify your target prospects. Research your prospects before you call them, and then qualify them as you're calling them. How do you make sure this is somebody who is worth following up with in the long run? Again, insert Jordan Belfort's book here, The Way of the Wolf. He talks about the straight line system. It is very, very effective for people to follow as they're going out and building it. Set that number of outreach that you're going to hit every single day is step 4 or 5. I'm sorry, you can call me out if I'm not at the right number there. Set that number of outreach and hold yourself to that every single day, no matter what. Okay. And then the progress is going to show when what used to take you 3 hours to do now takes you 2 hours. And then you add in more to your workday, that increases your output. Okay. And then the last one, fucking eliminate, tell yourself you're done going on social media throughout the workday. All right. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that shit, TikTok. If you're going to use LinkedIn, set a timer on there, go in there for what you're going for to maybe research your prospect quick. If you catch yourself doom scrolling, my rule is as soon as I see something negative or somebody complaining, I get off the app, which again is in about 8 seconds in today's day and age. So with all of that being said, you guys, this is something that I apply daily inside of my business. Okay. This is something I would highly recommend everybody starts today. All right. This is the time of year where everybody's like, I'll push it out till after the holidays. All right. Just like there's this belief out there that when everything quote unquote improves, then I'll start selling. You will be dominated by the people who have not stopped selling. All right. I am just as frustrated as with everybody out there that I am not converting at a level that I feel is acceptable for my business. But I have it inside of my habits, inside of my routines that I'm going to make those calls. Who do you think they're going to remember? All right. Who do you think they're going to remember? Are they going to remember you? You're now the first person who's called that day out of the 80 that they've gotten that week. Or are they going to remember Chris, who's called them about 4 or 5 times now, had a couple of brief conversations because I'm mindful. I'm a gentleman of their time. I'm not wearing them out. Who are they going to think of first in those moments, right? So again, don't wait, you guys. That is the biggest killer, because if you're going to wait now, if you're serious about doing any meaningful changes in 2025, you got to start today. All right. Don't fucking wait till after the holidays. Don't do any of that shit. You don't need any more fucking time to think. Just act, you guys. All right. You got to act. Who gives a fuck? All right. Ultimately, you guys, we think other people are way more concerned about us than they actually are. Okay. Nobody cares. They got their own shit going on. And again, this isn't me saying that you don't matter as a person. Everybody matters as a person, but we make all this shit up in our head that all of these people are just thinking about us 24/7. They're not. Okay. You need to act. Everybody starts at 0. Everybody starts somewhere, and you just got to keep pushing through it. All right. I go through all this shit in my head every single day. I question, why the fuck am I doing this at times as well? But I give myself a couple of seconds, and then I pick up the phone and I start dialing. And then I realize, fuck, nobody actually gives a fuck who I am. So I'm going to keep dialing because this is actually pretty fun, because there's actually some really cool people out there when you get to talk to them. So that will be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys got value in this. I hope this episode helps you kind of have a clearer path on what you could do to find results going into 2025, and just really hit the ground running, you guys. All right. Start now. Start dialing today. Don't wait. You guys do not wait, because if you wait until after the new year, you're already behind. If you are truly committed to changing your situation, the days of waiting are done. You have to act. It's uncomfortable for everybody. It's going to be uncomfortable no matter what. So you might as well get a little bit uncomfortable, and then over time realize, like, damn, I've actually grown. That wasn't as uncomfortable that I thought. And then you build up that routine and you follow that every single day. But that's going to be it, you guys. We got guests coming on maybe every day this week. I don't know. I got to check my schedule, but I know I got a guest coming on tomorrow for sure. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you guys got value with what you heard, and I'm sure you did, but if you didn't, you're not subscribed, do your boy a solid. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. Subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.